The words cut through the air like a blade. You people don't belong here. The bank lobby in downtown New Orleans is sleek, quiet, bathed in soft golden light. The kind of place where money whispers and marble floors reflect power. But now, all that elegance holds its breath. Standing at the teller window is Monica Ellison, 61, graceful, black, wearing a tailored beige suit, her natural curls pulled back in a neat twist, and a quiet dignity wrapped around her like armor. She's holding a business check, $25,000, printed with the bold logo of Ellison Capital Group. She doesn't flinch. Not when the young white teller says it. Not even when the judgment in her eyes stings deeper than the words themselves. I just need to deposit this, Monica says calmly, sliding the check through the glass. It's from my son's company. Chloe Brennan, 28, barely glances at it. Her lips tighten, her fingers hover. This looks suspicious. We've had problems with these kinds of checks before. Monica smiles politely. I've banked here for over a decade. That was then, Chloe says coldly. Now we have stricter protocols. Around them, other customers glance over, curious, cautious, uncomfortable. But then Chloe does something unthinkable. She lifts the check and tears it in half. Then again, and again. The pieces flutter to the marble counter like broken promises. Monica watches, still as stone, as $25,000 in trust and legacy fall to the ground. Not just a check, but a message: you don't belong. But what Chloe doesn't know is what's coming next. What happens when the woman you humiliate turns out to be the mother of the man who owns the entire bank? And what happens when he finds out? This isn't just about one check. This is about legacy, power, dignity, and the kind of justice that doesn't knock before it enters. Because when Monica Ellison walks back through those glass doors, she won't be alone. And the entire banking world is about to learn a lesson they'll never forget. Earlier that morning, everything had felt routine. Monica Ellison parked her silver Buick in the usual spot, third space from the right, beneath the magnolia tree that always reminded her of home. She stepped out with purpose, heels clicking softly against the pavement, her beige suit perfectly pressed, her shoulders back. The check was folded neatly inside her wallet, right next to her ID and business registration. She'd done this dozens of times. Same branch, same account, same smile from the teller. But today, something was different. As she approached the entrance, a delivery driver held the door open for her. "Morning, ma'am," he said, with a polite nod. She smiled. "You too, baby." Inside, the bank hummed with the usual rhythm. Low conversations, the occasional printer whirring, the distant buzz of a fax machine that refused to die. Monica stepped into line, patient and calm, scanning the room like she always did. Her eyes landed on Chloe. New face. Yeah. Blonde hair pulled into a tight ponytail. Makeup flawless. The kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Monica didn't think much of it at first. Every workplace has turnover. She stepped up when her turn came and offered the check with a gentle, "Good morning." Chloe's gaze dropped to the name on the check, Ellison Capital Group. Her eyes flicked up, locking onto Monica's face. Something hardened in her expression. "This is a lot," she said, holding the check between two fingers like it was radioactive. Monica chuckled softly, trying to diffuse the tension. "My son's company. He sends funds monthly to support our family business. It's all documented." Chloe didn't smile. She didn't nod. She just stared. A beat of silence. Then, another. "Do you have proof of ownership of this business?" Chloe asked sharply, her voice rising a notch. "I do," Monica replied, calmly reaching into her bag. But even as she pulled out her documents, Monica could feel the shift. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't about security. This was something else. Something colder. Something that looked like the past dressed up in modern clothes. And as Chloe began questioning every detail, every signature, every date, Monica knew. This wasn't about fraud. This was about perception. And someone had already made up their mind. The line behind Monica started to grow. She could feel it, the shifting weight of impatience. The glances, the sighs, the shuffling feet of customers checking their watches and phones. But Chloe didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she did, and liked it. "Ma'am, this doesn't match the address we have on file," Chloe said loudly, loud enough for at least 6 people to hear. Monica kept her tone calm. We moved the business last month. I submitted the change of address form. It should have been updated by now. Chloe clicked her keyboard with the kind of aggression only frustration or fear can produce. Well, I don't see it here. She tapped her nails against the desk. This check still looks questionable to me. A man 2 spots back in line, a middle-aged guy in a navy polo, whispered to the woman next to him. This is holding everybody up. Another voice joined in. Just call the manager already. And Chloe did. Daniel, can you come up here? She called across the lobby. The branch manager, Daniel Hayes, appeared from a side hallway. He was in his 40s, hair thinning at the temples, tie a little too tight around his neck. His walk was brisk, but his expression said one thing. This is a problem he didn't want. What's going on? He asked, glancing between Chloe and Monica. This customer is trying to deposit a $25,000 check, Chloe explained, her voice clipped. From a company she claims is owned by her son. But nothing checks out. The address is off. The name isn't in our database. It feels wrong. Daniel turned to Monica, putting on a customer service smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mrs. Ellison, she said evenly. He nodded, as if the name meant nothing. And in that moment, it didn't. Mrs. Ellison, please understand we're just trying to protect our clients. Fraud attempts are on the rise, and we've seen a few lately using fake business names and forged checks. This isn't one of those, Monica replied. I can assure you. Daniel exchanged a look with Chloe. She nodded slightly, and then, just like that, it happened. Chloe reached for the check again. Except this time, she didn't hand it back. She tore it. Right down the center. Gasps rippled through the lobby. It was no longer about a check. It was about something bigger. And everyone knew it. The sound was sharp, crisp, like dry leaves snapping underfoot in autumn. It echoed across the marble lobby, silencing even the clicking keyboards and muffled conversations at other teller windows. Chloe held what was left of the check in her hand, torn down the middle. Then again. Then again. The pieces floated like ash, landing softly on the counter between them. Monica didn't speak. Not right away. She stood still, her hands folded in front of her, as if she were saying a silent prayer. But inside her chest, something cracked. Not from shock. Not from anger. But from the weight of a humiliation so public, so deliberate, it defied logic. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, realizing too late that this was no longer a routine security measure. This was something else. Something that had just crossed a line in front of a dozen silent witnesses. Monica lowered her eyes, slowly reaching for the torn fragments. One by one, she picked them up with delicate care, like they were pieces of something sacred. Because to her, they were. This wasn't just a check. It was trust. Legacy. Her son's name. Her family's work. And it had just been shredded, not because it was invalid, but because someone decided she didn't look the part. A woman near the back of the line gasped. A young man pulled out his phone, quietly hitting record. Another customer, a gray-haired black veteran in a VFW jacket, folded his arms and stepped closer, his jaw tight. Monica gathered the last fragment from the floor and stood tall. Her voice was steady, controlled. I'd like to speak with regional management, please, she said, looking directly at Daniel. Daniel's smile vanished. That won't be necessary. We've handled it appropriately. Perhaps you'd feel more comfortable banking elsewhere. Monica's eyes narrowed. You mean somewhere that doesn't treat longtime clients like criminals? Chloe crossed her arms, defiant. Ma'am, we have standards. This isn't personal. But it is, Monica replied, calm but firm. Every assumption you've made is personal. The room stayed quiet. The air was thick, like the pause before a storm. Phones kept recording. Faces kept watching. And Monica. She had no intention of backing down. Because now, this wasn't just about her. It was about every person who'd ever been told they didn't belong, without anyone ever asking why. Monica stepped outside. The fall air hit her like a splash of cold water. Sharp, bracing, necessary. She didn't cry. Not yet. Her hands trembled slightly, still gripping the fragments of her son's check. She walked to the far end of the parking lot, beyond the sightline of the lobby's tall windows, beyond judgment. And she pulled out her phone. Her fingers hovered for a moment above the screen. She didn't want to call him. Not like this. Not with this. But he had to know. She dialed. "Hey Mom," came the voice on the other end, warm and easy. "Hey baby," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I need to talk to you. Something happened at the bank." There was a pause. "What bank?" he asked, already sensing it wasn't small. "The Crescent branch. Downtown." Andre Ellison, 34, CEO of Ellison Capital Group, one of the youngest black executives in the banking industry, sat up straighter in his chair. He was in Boston, in a meeting. But now, none of that mattered. "What happened?" "They tore it up," she said quietly. "The check. Your check." The new teller, and the manager backed her up, said I looked suspicious. That your company wasn't real. In front of everyone. The silence on his end wasn't empty. It was heavy. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he said finally. "That should have never happened." "I know," she said. "But it did. I didn't want to call you for this," she added. "I didn't want to be that mother." He smiled softly, despite the fire building inside him. "You were never that mother." Then came the pause. The pivot. "I need you to do something," Andre said. "Can you go back in there?" Her heart skipped. "Go back in." "Yes. This time, don't ask to be respected. Demand it. I need you to trust me." Monica hesitated. But then she remembered the look on Chloe's face. The smug certainty. The ease with which she had destroyed something that wasn't hers. "All right," she said. "But you better be right." "I'm always right," he teased, then turned serious. "Go now. I'll take care of the rest." And as Monica turned back toward the glass doors of the bank, Andre was already making the calls. Because when the CEO of the company whose name you just shredded finds out you humiliated his mother, the fallout isn't coming. It's already begun. The bell above the door chimed as Monica stepped back into the bank. Every eye turned. The customers. The tellers. Even the security guard shifted in place. It was the same lobby, the same golden light, but everything felt different now. Heavier. Tighter. Monica's heels echoed on the marble as she walked with quiet determination to the front of the line. Chloe saw her first. Her expression morphed from annoyance to disbelief, and then back to cold professionalism. "Ma'am, I thought we already finished this conversation," she said, folding her arms tightly across her chest. Monica didn't flinch. "I'd like to speak to Mr. Hayes again. There seems to be some confusion about my account." Daniel, still lingering near the side counter, turned around slowly. His mouth pressed into a thin line as he walked over, hands clasped in front of him like a pastor preparing for a difficult sermon. "Mrs. Ellison," he said carefully. "As we explained before, the check you attempted to deposit appeared irregular. Our teller followed protocol." Monica took a breath, deep, centered, then placed the torn check fragments on the counter, neatly arranged like puzzle pieces. "I've been banking here for over 12 years, she said calmly. "Your protocol didn't seem to be an issue until a young black woman handed you a large check." "Now hold on," Daniel started, but Monica cut him off, voice still even. "No. You hold on. You just tore up a legal financial instrument from a legitimate company. Not because it was fake, but because you didn't like the story that came with it." Chloe interjected. "Ma'am, please lower your voice." "I'm not yelling," Monica said, louder now. "This isn't a scene. This is a statement." A few people clapped. Just a couple. Then a few more. Monica turned slightly, addressing the customers around her. "If this can happen to me, with documents, with proof, with a track record, what do you think happens to someone with less?" The room stayed still. Daniel swallowed hard, beads of sweat forming near his temple. The phones at the back desk started to ring. Once. Then twice. And then the screen above the teller windows, normally filled with ads for mortgage rates and savings accounts, began to flicker. Change was coming. And no one in that room was ready for it. The screen above the teller windows glitched once, then again. A soft flicker, barely noticeable at first, replaced the usual carousel of bank ads with something unfamiliar. Mortgage promotions disappeared. Retirement planning visuals faded. In their place, a new image loaded, clean and corporate. The words appeared in bold white text against a navy blue background. First Crescent Bank welcomes new ownership under Ellison Capital Group. Gasps spread across the lobby like wildfire. Daniel turned toward the screen, his face draining of color. Chloe's arms dropped to her sides. Her mouth parted slightly, the air knocked clean from her lungs. The next slide loaded. A headshot. Professional. Sharp suit. Confident expression. Deep brown eyes that mirrored someone standing just a few feet away from the teller counter. Meet our new Chief Executive Officer, Andre Ellison. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Another voice, "Ellison, like the name on that check." And then it clicked. The check. The name. The woman standing in the middle of the bank with her chin high and her hands steady. Monica Ellison, the mother of the CEO. The realization swept across the room like a wave, knocking over every assumption, every bias, every smug smile in its path. Customers looked at each other. Some began filming. Others simply watched, stunned. Chloe stepped back from the counter, her legs unsteady. She opened her mouth to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. Daniel looked like he'd just swallowed a brick. His voice cracked. "Mrs. Ellison, we didn't." "No," Monica said, cutting through the chaos like a blade. "You didn't know. And that's the problem." The phones started ringing again. Not regular calls. Internal lines. One after another. Back office. Regional management. Corporate headquarters. The room vibrated with urgency. With consequences. The security guard by the door straightened his posture, unsure of what to do, but certain something big had just shifted. Monica stood there in silence for a moment longer, her presence commanding, her voice no longer necessary. Because the screen above her had spoken loud enough. And now, her son was on his way. The glass doors of the bank slid open. And in walked Andre Ellison. No one needed an introduction. They'd just seen his face 15 feet tall on the screen above them. But seeing him in person was something else. 6'2". Tailored navy suit. Crisp white shirt. Brown leather shoes polished to a shine. But it wasn't the wardrobe that made the room fall silent. It was his energy. He walked like a man used to boardrooms, not branch lobbies. The kind of presence that makes people straighten their backs and second-guess their decisions. A man who didn't ask for attention, he commanded it. He walked straight to Monica without looking around, embraced her gently, and whispered something only she could hear. Then he turned. His eyes landed on Chloe first. She was frozen behind the counter, pale and breathless, her hands gripping the edge like it might hold her upright. "Mrs. Brennan," Andre said calmly, "I believe you tore up a check from Ellison Capital?" Chloe nodded, barely. "And you called my mother a fraud?" Chloe's voice cracked. I thought." He raised a hand. Not harsh. Just final. "I'm not here to hear what you thought," he said. "I'm here to address what you did." Then he turned to Daniel. "And you?" Andre asked. "Did you authorize that?" Daniel cleared his throat. "I was informed by the teller." "So you backed her without checking the account? Or the client's history? Or the name of the company that signs your paychecks?" That landed hard. Daniel opened his mouth to explain, but Andre had already turned back to Monica. "I told you to go back inside," he said. "You didn't have to say a word. The truth would speak for itself." And now it had. The lobby remained dead quiet. Every employee stood still. Every customer watched. Even the security guard leaned slightly forward, caught between admiration and disbelief. Andre took out his phone. "Call legal," he said to someone on the other end. "Have them review today's incident. I want the full footage pulled and preserved. And I want corporate here within the hour." Then he looked up at Chloe and Daniel one last time. "Your mistakes didn't end with an apology. They started with one." And just like that, the room understood. This was no longer about a check. It was about accountability. And it had just arrived, wearing a name they would never forget. Andre stood quietly, letting the weight of the moment settle over the room. He didn't yell. He didn't need to. Sometimes power doesn't shout, it whispers, and everyone still hears it. Monica watched him, proud but steady, knowing her son wasn't here to humiliate anyone. He was here to teach a lesson. One deeper than punishment. One that might actually change something. Before we talk about consequences, Andre said, eyes sweeping across the staff, I want to talk about why this happened. He turned back to Chloe. You're afraid, he said plainly. I can see it. But I also read your file. Chloe's eyes widened. You're a single mom. You got burned before, lost a job for trusting the wrong person. That kind of fear. It sticks. And I get it. But you don't fix fear by projecting it onto someone who's done nothing wrong. He paused. You fix it by understanding it. Then he looked at Daniel. You grew up in the system. Foster homes. No safety net. You learned to follow rules so tightly, you forgot when to question them. That's not leadership. That's fear disguised as policy. Daniel looked down. Andre took a breath. This isn't just about a check, he continued. This is about what happens when fear becomes the default. When judgment is quicker than curiosity. When assumptions override facts. He looked around the lobby again, this time addressing everyone. How many times do we see someone like my mother and immediately assign value, or the lack of it, based on appearance, age, or skin tone? No one answered. But everyone understood. Andre turned back to Monica. You told me once that dignity isn't what others give you. It's what you carry, even when no one sees it. She nodded. And today, Mom, they all saw it. He faced the employees one last time. We're not just going to move on from this, he said. We're going to learn from it. And we're going to rebuild this branch, not just from the top down, but from the inside out. No one clapped. No one cheered. But something shifted. Because real change doesn't start with outrage. It starts with truth. And that truth had just walked through the front door, wearing the last name Ellison. Andre didn't believe in burning bridges. He believed in rebuilding them, wider, stronger, and with room for everyone to cross. That's why, later that afternoon, after the lawyers arrived and the footage had been reviewed, Andre sat down with Chloe and Daniel. Not as their superior, but as someone who had once made hard choices too. I'm not going to destroy your careers, he said calmly. But I am going to hold you accountable. Chloe looked down, eyes glassy. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to protect the bank. I was afraid. I know, Andre said. But fear doesn't excuse harm. It explains it. And that's where your second chance begins. He handed her a typed document. You'll be suspended for 30 days, he said. Without pay. During that time, you'll complete our full cultural bias and empathy training. After that, you'll be reassigned, not as a teller, but in customer advocacy. She blinked, confused. You're teeping me? Andre nodded. Because who better to help customers feel seen than someone who now understands what it feels like to be judged? Then he turned to Daniel. You'll stay, Andre said. But you're stepping down as branch manager. Effective immediately. You'll move into compliance and training. Daniel nodded slowly, hands folded, humbled. You'll help build a new protocol, one that protects against fraud, yes, but also protects against bias. Because rules without reflection are just fences that keep the wrong people out. Neither Chloe nor Daniel protested. There was no fight left in them. But there was something else now, awareness, regret, a spark of willingness to be better. Monica sat quietly nearby, watching it all unfold. She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She saw something more powerful than punishment. She saw growth. As the meetings wrapped up and Chloe gathered her things, she walked over to Monica, tears running freely now. I'm sorry, she said. Not just for the check. For the way I looked at you. The way I didn't see you. Monica placed a hand gently on Chloe's arm. Fear makes people do small things, she said softly. But it doesn't have to keep you small. And with that, Chloe left the branch, not as a villain, not yet a hero, but as someone finally walking in the right direction. By the end of the week, the video had gone viral. It started with a single clip posted by a teenager who'd been waiting in line at the bank. Just a blurry video at first, Monica standing firm while Chloe shredded the check. Then came the audio. Then came the reposts. Within 48 hours, it had racked up 2 million views. Local news picked it up. Then, national. Then, international. Headlines read, Bank CEO's mother mistaken for fraudster, justice delivered on camera. Dignity torn, legacy rebuilt. Social media erupted. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Ellison effect. Hashtag Monica deserves better. Hashtag banking while black. But Andre wasn't chasing attention. He was focused on something deeper, systemic change. At the next board meeting, he didn't just talk numbers. He brought stories. He played the clip. He read customer emails from people who said, "This happened to my aunt. This happened to me. Thank you for showing the world what it looks like to respond with both power and grace." Then Andre announced sweeping reforms. Every branch would now require quarterly training on cultural bias, empathy, and inclusive service. A new internal watchdog group, led by a diverse team of employees, would review every discrimination-related complaint within 72 hours. And for customers, a new pledge printed on every deposit slip. At Ellison Capital, respect is not earned, it's guaranteed. The company's stock rose. But more importantly, so did its integrity. Other banks took notice. Within a month, 3 regional banks launched similar reforms. Within 6 months, 2 of the nation's biggest financial institutions began revising their customer service protocols based on what they called the Ellison response. And Monica, she didn't seek the spotlight, but it found her anyway. She was invited to speak at community centers, churches, even business schools. Not as a victim, but as a witness. As proof that standing up, even when it's uncomfortable, can create a ripple felt in boardrooms and break rooms alike. When they tore up that check, she said at one gathering, they didn't just shred paper. They shredded assumptions about who belongs, about who matters. And when she said it, people didn't just listen. They remembered. Because some moments don't just go viral. They go permanent. 1 year later, Monica Ellison walked through the same glass doors of the Crescent branch. But everything felt different. The lobby was still bathed in soft golden light. The marble floors still gleamed. But the energy, the tone, had changed. It was warmer now. More human. A young black woman, maybe 22, greeted Monica at the front desk with a bright smile. "Welcome to Ellison Capital," she said. "Can I help you with anything today?" Monica smiled back. "I'm just here to watch." She wasn't here for business. Not this time. She came to see the change. The fruit of everything that had happened. She came to see if the promise had taken root. And it had. There were small things, the new posters on the wall, highlighting community partnerships and customer dignity. A feedback kiosk at the entrance. A glass plaque behind the tellers that read, "We don't judge by balance. We serve by principle." But it was the people that made the difference. Tellers from different backgrounds. A Latino branch manager speaking fluent Spanish to an elderly couple. A young man in a wheelchair assisting a customer with mobile banking. And behind the customer service desk, Chloe Brennan. Her posture had changed. Her tone was soft, steady. Her eyes didn't dart away when she saw Monica. She stood up, walked over, and extended her hand. "Mrs. Ellison," she said, not with shame, but with respect. "It's good to see you again." Monica shook her hand. "You've come a long way." Chloe nodded. "I had a lot to learn. Still do." "You're doing the work," Monica said. "That's what matters." And it was. Because real change isn't about headlines. It's not about viral videos or public takedowns. It's about the quiet shift in how people treat each other when no one's filming. And in that little branch in New Orleans, change had walked in the door a year ago and decided to stay. Later that evening, Monica sat on her front porch. The sun dipped low behind the trees, casting long shadows across the yard. A light breeze tugged at the edge of her sweater. The day had been full, emotional, healing. Andre sat beside her, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, shoulders relaxed for the first time in what felt like months. He looked at his mother with quiet admiration. "You ever regret going back inside that day?" he asked. Monica didn't answer right away. She watched a bird settle onto a nearby fence. Then she looked at him, her eyes steady. "No," she said. "Regret is for silence. And I didn't stay silent." She leaned back in her chair. "I didn't go back in there to prove a point. I went back so the next woman who looks like me talks like me, walks into a bank like me, doesn't have to explain why she belongs. Andre nodded, the words landing deep. Monica continued. We all have moments where we choose between comfort and conviction, between being safe and being right. She glanced over. I raised you to know the difference. He smiled. You did. And you taught me that power isn't about having the final word, it's about opening the door for others to speak. That was the real legacy. Not the money. Not the title. Not the headlines. But the choice to turn a moment of pain into a movement of purpose. And the reminder that respect doesn't trickle down from authority, it ripples out from courage. Monica stood, stretched slowly, then looked out at the quiet street. Dignity, she said softly, is contagious. And in that moment, it didn't matter who was watching. Because she knew, when one person demands dignity, they give everyone else permission to expect it too.